My sister-in-law is a freeloader, and my husband is a mama's boy. This is a lesson they'll remember for life. Welcome to Real Life Stories. My husband's sister quit her job and moved in with us, and my mother-in-law immediately told me to wait on her. I silently blocked their cards, flew off on a business trip, and taught his entire family a lesson they'll never forget. The wall clock showed 7 p.m., dinner on the table had long since grown cold. The chicken pot pie had stopped steaming, and a greasy film had congealed on the meatloaf and mashed potatoes. I sat, scrolling through work emails on my phone that I hadn't had time to answer, but all my thoughts were fixed on the front door. For the last 3 years, my life had revolved in this vicious circle. By day, I was a formidable director of marketing, managing dozens of subordinates and bringing in millions in revenue for my company. But the moment I stepped through the door at home, I instantly transformed into a free cook and housekeeper, serving a man who simply refused to grow up. The lock clicked, and the heavy door opened. Greg walked in, red as a beet. He reeked of stale alcohol. He tossed his worn leather briefcase onto the couch without even glancing at the dinner I had worked so hard to prepare, and carelessly threw his tie on the floor. Suppressing a sigh, I got up, picked up the tie, and hung it on a hook. Trying to speak calmly, I asked, "Were you drinking?" Greg waved me off, sprawled on the couch, and closed his eyes tiredly. "No need. I already ate with the guys from work. Sit down. I need to inform you of something." The way he used the word inform instead of discuss made me freeze. My woman's intuition, sharpened by years in business, whispered, "Trouble's coming." I sat in the armchair opposite him, crossing my arms over my chest, waiting. Greg cleared his throat, still not looking me in the eye. "Clean out the storage closet and put a mattress in there. Sarah's moving in with us tomorrow." My eyes widened. I thought I had misheard. Sarah was Greg's younger sister. She was 24, but her personality wasn't much different from a 3-year-old, spoiled rotten by his mother. "Why is Sarah suddenly moving in with us? Your parents have a huge house. Why can't she live there? Why crowd into our tiny 2-bedroom apartment?" Greg frowned and spoke irritably. "Don't be like that. This is my apartment. My sister is having difficulties. I have to help her. She just quit her old job. Too much stress. Mom said, let her live with us for 6 months. She can unwind, de-stress. You're her sister-in-law. You should show some sympathy." I laughed bitterly. Sympathy? In 3 years of marriage, I had never spared expense on gifts or help for his family. And what had I received in return? Limitless demands. My salary was $10,000 a month. I covered all living expenses, utilities, mortgage, car loan. Greg's measly $2,500 salary? He kept it for his pocket money and to help his mom. And now, a lazy sister-in-law around my neck. This meant I'd have to feed another mouth, and serve her too. "Greg, I need you to understand. I'm at work all day. I have a huge workload, and when I come home, I want to rest. Sarah is an adult. She quit, so let her find a new job, not freeload off her brother and his wife." "I don't agree." Greg slammed his fist on the table and yelled, eyes blazing, "Don't be so selfish. Mom already called me and told me everything. If you don't agree, I'll force you. She's coming tomorrow, so get ready and don't make Mom call you with complaints." Having said that, he jumped up and went to the bathroom, leaving me alone in the living room. Resentment welled up in my throat. I picked up my phone, about to call Alex and vent my anger, when suddenly an Instagram notification popped up. It was Sarah's account. She had just posted a series of gorgeous photos from a 5-star hotel in Cancun. In the pictures, Sarah, in a revealing bikini with a cocktail in hand, beamed with happiness. But blood rushed to my head at the caption. "Quit my job. Time to party. Goodbye, stupid boss. I'm off to find myself. Thanks to my beloved brother for sponsoring this dream trip with $7,000. Love you more than anyone." $7,000. That figure danced before my eyes, mocking me. Greg constantly complained to me that his company had cut bonuses, that his salary this month was only $2,000, and he didn't give me a dime for household expenses. And yet, he calmly shelled out $7,000, money from our joint savings, which I naively believed he was holding for something serious, so his sister could have fun. I squeezed my phone until my knuckles turned white. It turned out that in the eyes of his family, I was just a soulless ATM, a workhorse. They exploited my labor, my money, and yet they despised me. I didn't cry. A woman who had spent 10 years in the business world didn't shed tears for those who didn't deserve it. I took a screenshot of Sarah's post as evidence. A plan for revenge began to form in my head. If they wanted to play hardball, I would play along to the very end. This night would be the last I tolerated humiliation in this house. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, but not to prepare an elaborate breakfast as always, but to prepare for my departure. Greg was still snoring loudly, blankets and pillows strewn about. Looking at his innocent sleeping face, I asked myself, how could I have been so blind and married this spineless man? Perhaps the image of a caring son that he so skillfully created was too good, or I was too overconfident. The phone on the vanity vibrated. 6 a.m. Without looking at the screen, I knew who it was. Only Carol had a habit of calling her daughter-in-law at such an early hour to give orders. I took a deep breath, adjusted my hair, and answered, trying to speak as calmly as possible. "Hello, I'm listening, Mom." At the other end of the line, Carol's icy, piercing voice, like metal scraping glass, rang out. "Is that you, Maria? Why aren't you up yet to tidy up? Greg said yesterday that Sarah is coming today. Did you prepare her room? And mind you, I'm being discharged from the hospital next week. I'll come stay with you for a month to regain my strength. So go to the market, buy some prime rib, smoked salmon, to fatten me up, and don't skimp. Don't even think about buying anything stale." I smirked wryly, looking at my reflection in the mirror. A beautiful, intelligent woman. Why should I listen to these absurd and venomous dictates? Carol never asked if I was tired from work. Her only concern was, am I serving her son and daughter well enough? "Excuse me, Mom," I replied. My voice was soft, but full of hidden meaning. "I'm afraid I won't be able to prepare a room for Sarah. And your visit, unfortunately, will also be inconvenient." Carol exploded. "What did you say? You dare contradict me. My son bought this apartment. I'll come whenever I want. You're the daughter-in-law. Your job is to listen and obey, not to be rude." "Mom, calm down and listen," I interrupted her. My voice became firm. Not a trace of submission remained. This morning, management decided to send me on an extended business trip to our San Diego branch to resolve a media crisis. 6 months. It's a directive from the CEO. I can't refuse. I'm flying out this afternoon. Silence reigned on the other end of the line for a few seconds, then Carol's scream erupted, so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "What, for 6 months? Are you out of your mind, Maria? If you leave, who will cook for Greg? Who will take care of Sarah? Who will serve me when I arrive? Who are you leaving the house to? Greg is 32, Mom. He's perfectly capable of cooking for himself and doing laundry. Sarah is 24. She's strong and healthy. Just came back from Cancun, full of energy to take care of herself. I'm going to work and earn money, not to be around-the-clock maid. I need to pack. Goodbye, Mom." I decisively hung up, ignoring the wailing coming from the earpiece. A feeling of exhilaration filled my chest. For the first time in 3 years, I dared to contradict my despotic mother-in-law. At that moment, Greg groaned and got out of bed. Squinting, he asked, "Who are you making so much noise with so early?" I turned to him. My gaze was icy. Mom called. I informed her that I'm flying to San Diego on a business trip for 6 months this afternoon, so you'll have to manage on your own. Greg finally woke up, jumping as if on springs. "Are you kidding? San Diego for 6 months? What about Sarah? And Mom's coming soon. If you leave, who will do all the housework? Are you trying to kill me?" The first thing he said wasn't, "Won't you get tired?" or "Is the work difficult?" but "Who will do the housework?" Selfishness was ingrained in this man's blood. I wheeled my already packed suitcase into the middle of the room. The wheels rattled dryly on the hardwood floor. "Do you have hands and feet? Your sister does too. Figure it out and live. For expenses, I've transferred exactly $700 to you, the same amount you contributed to the family budget monthly. If it's not enough, add more yourself, or tell Sarah to sell a couple of her handbags. I'm leaving. Greg lunged at the door, blocking my way. His face turned crimson. Stop! You're the wife in this house. You're not going anywhere. If you walk out that door now, don't bother coming back. I looked him straight in the eyes. My sharp gaze made him step back. Greg, you're threatening the wrong person. This apartment was 70% paid for with my money. All the furniture and appliances, from toothpicks to the refrigerator, were bought with my money. What right do you have to kick me out? I'm leaving for work, and also so you can understand what independence means. Move. My confidence completely overpowered his usual weak-willed nature. He backed away, looking at me like a stranger. I pulled my suitcase past him without looking back. The door slammed shut behind me, closing off 3 years of unpaid servitude. Goodbye, suffocating golden cage. The taxi pulled away from the upscale apartment complex, leaving behind the gray concrete building I had once called my home. Sitting in the back seat, I relaxed, leaning my head against the window and looking at the morning streets of bustling New York City. Strangely, instead of sadness or disappointment, I felt an incredible lightness, as if I had shed a 1,000-ton burden. A feeling of freedom permeated every cell. And I wanted to breathe in this dusty, yet intoxicating air with full lungs. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Dozens of missed calls from Greg, Carol, and even an unknown number that, I guessed, belonged to my usually silent but stern father-in-law. I didn't turn off my phone. I just put it on, Do Not Disturb. I needed absolute silence to start a new life, at least for the next 6 months. I opened my banking app and looked at the balance. Yesterday, immediately after seeing Sarah's post, I had secretly withdrawn all my personal savings and most of the money from our joint account, where I deposited my funds, and transferred it to an online savings account opened in my mother's name. I left exactly $700 in the joint account. This was the same amount Greg gave me every month for food, utilities, and other expenses for a family of 3. He always said, if you knew how to save, it would be enough for everything. A woman should be thrifty. Well, let's see how he manages now with $700 when he also has to feed his idle sister and his capricious elderly mother. I texted Alex, I'm gone. Straight course to San Diego. Evening drinks in NYC canceled. See you next weekend. Tickets on me. Alex immediately replied with an applause sticker. Excellent. Congratulations, my friend, you escaped. Enjoy yourself, and don't even think about giving in and coming back early. JFK Airport was packed. I confidently wheeled my suitcase on high heels. My reflection in the large glass display windows, the image of a successful, independent woman, pleased me. I was no longer that disheveled wife, smelling of kitchen odors every evening. As soon as I finished checking in, a message from Greg arrived. This time, curiosity got the better of me. Maria, did you really leave? You're not joking, are you? Mom is crying nonstop. You're her daughter-in-law. How can you do this? Transfer more money. $700 isn't even enough for a week. Are you trying to starve us all to death? I smirked and quickly typed a short reply. Tell Mom to stop crying, or her blood pressure will spike. And as for $700, you yourself said you need to know how to save. Now you're the head of the family. Show Mom and Sarah your talent. Oh, and I blocked your additional credit card. With best wishes. After sending the message, I temporarily blocked his number for 24 hours. I wanted them to fully experience panic. The plane took off, leaving tiny New York City below. Looking at the fluffy white clouds, I silently told myself, Maria, welcome back. For the last 3 years, I lived too much for others, forgetting who I truly was. This trip wasn't just a business trip. It was a journey to myself. I will use my abilities to conquer the San Diego market and teach my husband's family a lesson they will remember for life. There are no irreplaceable people, but by losing a wife like me, they would pay with chaos and despair. San Diego greeted me with bright sunshine and a salty sea breeze. I took a deep breath and smiled at the taxi driver. To the Radisson Collection on the waterfront, please. The game had just begun. While I sipped a cocktail on the beach, enjoying the cool breeze and the sound of the waves. Back in New York City, my apartment must have turned into a battlefield. I could picture the scene so clearly, as if watching a black and white tragicomedy. Sarah, dragging a huge pink suitcase, stands at the door, ringing the doorbell frantically. Greg probably had to leave work early to meet his sister, as the spare keys were with me, and he only had one set. The door opens, and Sarah rushes in like a hurricane, babbling, "Greg, why is it such a mess? Where's Maria? Why isn't she meeting me? I'm starving like a wolf. Is there anything to eat?" Greg stands in the middle of the living room, cluttered with dirty clothes. Dishes from 2 days ago are piled in the sink. Without my hand, in just 2 days, the apartment had begun to emit the characteristic smell of male neglect. "Your Maria is on a business trip. She left this morning. Tired," Greg replies, loosening his tie. He had a terrible day at work. His boss reprimanded him for a mistake in a report, and now this chaos awaited him at home. Sarah's eyes widened. "On a business trip? Who will cook? Who will do laundry?" "Most of my clothes are silk. They need to be hand-washed. Mom said I'd come and the daughter-in-law would take care of me like a queen." "A queen? How about no?" "My own head is throbbing," Greg snapped. "Look in the kitchen. Maybe there's instant ramen. Make yourself some." "I haven't eaten either." Sarah pouted and kicked her suitcase into a corner. "Are you kidding? I just came from a 5-star hotel and you're offering me instant ramen. No way. Call Maria, tell her to come back, or give me money. I want to order food. I want sushi." Greg rummaged through his pockets and remembered he only had a few dollars in cash in his wallet. The extra credit card was blocked, and payday was still far off. He sighed heavily. "What sushi? There's no money, only instant ramen. If you don't want it, go hungry." At that moment, the doorbell rang again. Greg, with a resigned look, went to open it. Standing on the doorstep was Carol. She had arrived earlier than planned, with bags stuffed with herbs and clothes. Carol surveyed the cluttered apartment. Her face darkened. "Greg, where's your wife? Why is the house such a pigsty? I just came from the hospital, weak, thought I'd come to rest, and it's like this. I'll die here." Greg clutched his head. "Mom, I told you. Maria went to San Diego. My own head is spinning." Carol plopped onto the couch, fanning herself. "She left, and you let her? A man in the house, and you can't keep your wife in check? Call her immediately. Tell her if she doesn't come back, I'll disown her. I've already called her 100 times. She blocked my number. You try." Carol pulled out her phone and dialed my number. Naturally, I had blocked her even before flying out. The incessant busy signals further infuriated her. She turned to Sarah, who was sitting and playing on her phone. "Sarah, what are you doing? Don't you see how dirty it is? Can't you sweep? Go cook dinner for your brother and mother." Sarah flared up. "Oh, Mom, I'm a guest here. I came here to relieve stress, not to be hired as a servant. At home, you never made me do anything. At home, I was well. And your brother works all day. If you don't do it, who will? Do you want your old mother to starve to death?" And then the trio began to argue fiercely. Greg stood between two fires. On one side, his despotic mother, on the other, his lazy sister. He began to fully experience what it meant to be a provider for his mother and sister. An empty stomach, a dirty house, and the din of their quarrel in his head. Greg looked at the kitchen, where a hot dinner usually awaited him. Now, it was cold and dark. For the first time, he felt that he missed me, but not out of love, but because he missed a multifunctional service robot named Wife. I put down my cocktail glass and smiled, looking at my phone screen, where a notification from the surveillance camera installed in the living room had just arrived. Watching their helpless fuss, I felt immense satisfaction. Let's see what lesson this battlefield teaches them in the coming days. The fourth morning in San Diego began with a cup of aromatic mocha and a view of the majestic harbor. I had just finished an online meeting with the board in New York and was in excellent spirits. My new marketing plan was approved on the first try. The feeling of working to my full potential and having my professionalism valued made me realize how much time I had wasted on trivial worries in my husband's family. The phone on the table vibrated, breaking the morning silence. Sarah, my sister-in-law, appeared on the screen. I frowned, about to decline the call, but curiosity got the better of me. I was curious how the little princess was coping without her fairy godmother, me. I took a sip of coffee and answered leisurely. Sarah's voice was not friendly. It was a string of demands, spoken in her usual capricious tone. Maria, hi. Transfer $500 to my card, please. Very urgent. I put her on speaker, and continuing to type on my laptop, asked in an indifferent tone, "Why, Sarah?" "If I'm not mistaken, Greg just gave you $7,000 for your trip to Cancun. You only came back a couple of days ago, and you've already spent it all." On the other end of the line, there was a click, and Sarah's voice became sharper. That $7,000 went on tickets, hotels, and shopping. Right now, I'm at the spa. They're waiting for payment for my facial treatments. And tonight, I have a meeting with my friends at an expensive restaurant. Greg said he doesn't have cash and told me to call you. Transfer it quickly. Everyone here is staring. It's awkward. I paused, suppressing a chuckle. Well, of course, brother and sister. Two peas in a pod, passing the buck to each other. It was obvious Greg had no money. His $2,500 salary was barely enough to maintain his inflated ego. How could he cover the expenses of this bottomless pit? I answered, enunciating each word. Sarah, listen to me carefully. I am your sister-in-law, not your mother, and not a money-printing machine. You are 24 years old. You've worked, so you should know how to manage your finances. No money? Go home, or tell the spa administrator to wait until your brother comes and pays. I am not obligated to pay for your entertainment. What are you talking about? Don't be such a cheapskate. You're talking to me like this over a few bucks. I'll complain to Mom, Sarah yelled into the phone. Complain all you want. Tell Mom to get out her pension and pay for you. I'm hanging up. I need to work to support myself. I immediately hung up. Just 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was Greg. I immediately understood the scenario. Sarah had called him, thrown a tantrum, and now he was calling me to show who was boss. I answered. Maria, what are you doing? You blocked my extra credit card. Greg's voice was panicked and angry at the same time. Yes, the card is in my name, and the limit on it is based on my income. I gave it to you for emergencies or for supermarket purchases, not so you could withdraw cash for your sister's trip or for her to pay at spas. What's wrong? Did you want to pay her bill? Greg exhaled. His tone changed from aggressive to pleading. Block the card immediately. I'm at Walmart, buying groceries for the whole family. I only have $20 left in my wallet. How will I pay for this cart? Mom is at home waiting for lunch. Don't make fun of me. I looked out the window at the clear blue sky of freedom. Greg, look at your cart. Take out the beer, the imported delicacies, the Wagyu beef. Buy some pasta, ground beef, regular vegetables. $20 is plenty for a modest dinner. You need to learn to save, just like you taught me. I'm busy. Bye. I imagined Greg standing confused, red with shame, putting expensive products back on the shelves under the sympathetic glances of people in line. Economic punishment was only the beginning. I wanted Greg to understand that without me, his fake middle-class life would crumble as fast as a sandcastle on the seashore. 3 days later, after the cessation of funding, I received a call from the hotel reception informing me that someone was waiting for me. It was 6 p.m. I was sitting in the lobby bar of the 5-star hotel, enjoying evening tea with a potential partner. The luxurious setting, quiet piano music, and pleasant aroma of lemongrass completely relaxed me. The revolving door of the hotel opened, and Greg appeared. He looked so disheveled that I barely recognized my usually neat husband. His shirt was wrinkled, one side tucked out from under his belt. His face was gaunt, unshaven, with deep dark circles under his eyes. In his hand, he held a small travel bag and looked around bewilderedly until his gaze stopped on me. Seeing me sitting there, radiant and beautiful in an emerald silk dress, Greg, like a drowning man clutching at a straw, rushed towards me, ignoring my interlocutor. Maria, there you are. I've been looking all over for you, he exclaimed in a hoarse voice. I apologized to my partner, politely stood up, and moved aside so as not to disturb others. Greg immediately ran up and grabbed my arm. "Let's go home, please. The house is in complete chaos. Mom is very ill. She's fainted several times. If you don't come back, she'll die." I pulled his hand away and looked at him coldly. "Calm down. This is a public place. If Mom is ill, take her to the hospital. She needs a doctor, not me." Unexpectedly, Greg collapsed to his knees right in the middle of the hotel lobby. His action drew the attention of everyone around, from the doorman to the tourists. Some began to pull out their phones and record. Greg knelt there, sobbing, playing the role of a distressed husband. "I know, I was wrong, but don't be so cruel. Mom is old, she doesn't have much time left. She just wants to see her daughter-in-law one last time. You abandoned the house, went to your lover, left a sick husband and a dying mother. Do you have a conscience?" The accusation that I had gone to a lover hit me like boiling water poured on me in front of the crowd. Whispers broke out. "She's so beautiful, but so mean. Poor guy." Begging his wife on his knees. "Definitely. Found herself a rich guy and dumped her husband." The crowd's gazes pierced me like needles. Greg was still on his knees, head bowed. His shoulders trembled, the perfect victim. He used his weakness as a weapon, appealing to morality to make me admit guilt and return to the old swamp. He thought that out of fear of condemnation, I would lift him up and obediently follow him. But Greg was wrong. The Maria, who was afraid of losing face and upsetting the neighbors, had died the day she left with her suitcase. I straightened my back and looked down at the man kneeling at my feet. The last drops of pity evaporated. I took a deep breath, preparing to turn the situation around. If he wanted to put on a show, I would give him an unforgettable finale. I did not help Greg up. Instead, I took a step back, creating distance. My voice rang out loudly and clearly, enough to drown out the whispers and for all the recording phones to capture every word. "Greg, stand up and stop hiding behind your mother. You say she's at death's door. Then why did the neighbor send me a video this morning of your mother happily playing bridge with her friends in the courtyard? Do you want me to show it right here for everyone to see?" Greg's head snapped up. His face turned white as a sheet. He stammered something, but I didn't let him get a word in. "You say I went to a lover. Look at yourself. For 3 years, your $2,500 salary stayed in your pocket. You didn't give me a dime. All household expenses, from utilities to medication for your mother, were paid from my salary. I slaved away 12 hours a day, then came home and served your entire family." I pulled out my phone, opened Sarah's Instagram screenshot, and showed it to Greg and then to the crowd. "Look, this is his own sister. As soon as she quit her job, he secretly took $7,000 from our joint savings and sent her on a luxurious vacation to Cancun. And all this time, he forced his wife to scrimp on food, not letting her buy even new lipstick. Now that the money is gone and there's no one to serve him, he rushed here to put on a circus to force me to come back and become a free slave again. What do you take me for? A workhorse or an ATM?" The crowd gasped. Condemnatory stares instantly shifted direction and pierced Greg. Oh my God, what a scoundrel. Spending his wife's money on his sister, and now forcing her to come back and serve him. He should be dumped. Looks decent, but lives off his wife. Shameful. Greg, burning with shame, jumped up, dusting off his pants. He dared not look anyone in the eye. His theatrical performance had utterly failed, exposing his selfish and deceitful nature. "Don't shout like that," he hissed through clenched teeth, trying to salvage the remnants of his dignity. "These are our family matters. We have nothing more to say behind closed doors. Greg, you want to talk? Fine. That cafe on the corner. I'm giving you 15 minutes. This is the last chance I'm giving you. Not as a wife, but as a woman whose patience has run out." I turned and walked away, leaving Greg alone under a barrage of sneers and reproaches. Head bowed, he shuffled after me like a criminal being led to execution. In the empty cafe, I ordered an orange juice. Greg sat opposite me, hands clasped on the table. Tension hung heavy in the air. "I'm sorry," he began quietly. "Everything at home went haywire. Maria, Sarah doesn't know how to do anything. Mom is constantly yelling. I come home tired from work and I can't take it anymore. I know I was wrong with the money, but please come back. I promise I'll change. I looked at Greg without a trace of doubt. A desperate man's promises are worthless. Greg, you want me to come back? Fine, but I won't return to that house. And our marriage, if we want to save it, will be built on my terms. I pulled out a notebook and pen from my bag and resolutely placed them on the table. Greg watched my every move with a mix of fear and hope. I have 3 conditions. If you agree and sign a written commitment, I will consider returning. If not, we divorce right now. I've already signed the petition. I'm just waiting for your signature. Greg swallowed and nodded. Tell me. I agree to everything. First, I raised one finger. My voice was steel. We move out immediately. You can leave the current apartment to your parents and Sarah, or sell it and split the money. Whatever you want. I will never again live under the same roof as your mother and sister. We will rent or buy another apartment at least 10 miles from your parents' house. I need my personal space and respect. Greg winced. But Mom is old, I'm her only son. If we move out, who will take care of her? She'll be very upset. Your mother is only 60. She's full of energy, and your father and Sarah live with her. If you want to show filial duty, visit them on weekends. I married you. I didn't sell myself into slavery. Choose your mother or your wife. If you choose your mother, you can leave. I'll sign the divorce papers right now. Greg was silent for a long time. Sweat beaded on his forehead. In the end, the fear of losing his financial source and personal servant, me, outweighed his fear of his mother. Okay, I agree. We'll rent an apartment and live separately. Second, I continued, finances must be transparent. From this moment on, each of us manages their own salary. We will create a joint fund for housing, utilities, and food. Each contributes 50%. No one has the right to take money from the joint fund for their relatives without the other's consent. If you want to give money to your mom or sister, use your personal funds. I don't forbid it, but touching the joint money is strictly prohibited. Greg nodded faster. This condition seemed more acceptable to him. Although I knew that with his $2,500 salary, after his contribution to the joint budget, he would have almost nothing left for his whims. Third, and most important, I looked him straight in the eye. If we have children, their upbringing is the exclusive right of the 2 of us. Grandma has no right to interfere in how we teach them, feed them, or choose a school for them. If she violates this rule, I will take the children and leave immediately. I agree to everything. I agree, Greg answered hastily. I briefly wrote down the 3 conditions on a sheet of paper, tore it out, and handed it to Greg. Write your commitment here, sign it, and date it. I will keep this as proof, but I warn you, I won't return immediately. I must finish my 6-month business trip. During this time, you will return to New York, find a rental apartment, and move your belongings from your parents' house. When I return and see that everything is ready in accordance with our agreement, then I will move in. Until then, manage on your own. Greg took the paper and, with a trembling hand, wrote the commitment. Looking at his scrawled signature, I felt no triumph, only weariness. This was the last chance I was giving our marriage, and a test of adulthood for Greg. Immediately after Greg left to catch his late flight to New York, I video called Alex. My best friend's cheerful face appeared on the screen, a beer in his hand. Well, gorgeous? They say your beloved flew in and begged for forgiveness on his knees. You probably cried with emotion, Alex smirked. I recounted everything to him, from the spectacle in the hotel lobby to the contract with 3 conditions. Alex listened, and the smile left his face, replaced by a rare seriousness. Maria, listen to me. Don't trust the promises of a cornered man. Right now, he's hungry, miserable, his mother is bothering him, so he agrees to everything. Just so you'll save him, a leopard doesn't change its spots. He's been a mama's boy for 32 years. Do you think some piece of paper will instantly turn him into a strong man? I sighed, leaning back in my chair. I know, but I want to try one last time. After all, we were husband and wife for 3 years. I don't want to divorce without trying every way to re-educate him. All right, if you want to try, then go all the way. Alex tapped his finger on the table. You did the right thing giving him 6 months. That's enough time to see if he'll really dare to break free from his mother's apron strings. Don't give in to pity, don't transfer money, and don't help him remotely. Let him flounder on his own. Only when he's caught between two fires, you and his mother, might he finally smarten up. In New York, a real war began for Greg. Upon returning home, he announced to Carol that after my return, they would move out. His mother's reaction was comparable to an atomic bomb explosion. She slammed a tea set, breaking it, and burst into tears. You listened to your wife and abandoned your old mother. Greg, I raised you. I didn't sleep at night. And now you're all grown up and leaving so I can wither away alone here? If you leave, I'll disown you. Sarah immediately added fuel to the fire. Brother, Maria bewitched you. She talked you into leaving to get all your property. If you leave, who will pay the bills? Who will buy me treats? Greg stood in the middle of the room, his head throbbing. The promises he had made to me were still fresh, but the pressure from his mother, accustomed to manipulating him, made him waver. However, this time he remembered my cold gaze and the humiliation in the hotel lobby. He understood that if he didn't do as I said, he would lose everything: his wife, financial stability, and be forced to live his entire life under the dictation of his mother and sister. Greg took a deep breath and, for the first time in his life, raised his voice at his mother. Enough, Mom. I've made up my mind. I'm 32 years old. I need my own life. I'll visit you. I'll give you money. But we won't live together. You and Sarah also need to learn independence. I can't carry you both my whole life. Having said that, Greg went to his room and slammed the door, ignoring the screams and curses coming from outside. His battle for freedom had just begun, and it would be far more fierce than he could have imagined. I, far away, could only observe and await the results of this experiment. Would Greg stand firm, or would he again succumb to the onslaught of his despotic mother? Time would tell. 3 weeks after Greg's return to New York, the storm not only hadn't subsided but had erupted with renewed force. I was sitting in my San Diego office, reviewing the media plan for the summer tourist season, when my phone rang. The screen displayed the name of my neighbor, Aunt Rose, the chief gossiper of our building. My intuition told me something was amiss. I turned on call recording. Aunt Rose's voice was sickeningly sweet, but full of venom. Hello, Maria. It's Aunt Rose. How's work for you? So far from home. Probably good. They say your salary is big, living in a fancy hotel. You've probably completely forgotten about our poor neighborhood. I gave a dry chuckle and replied politely, Hello, Aunt Rose. I'm working hard. It's hardly good. Did you want something? Aunt Rose switched to a mysterious whisper. Well, I'm just genuinely worried about you. That's why I'm calling. The whole building is buzzing that you abandoned your husband and your dying mother, and you're enjoying yourself in San Diego with some rich guy. They say you considered Greg poor. You didn't like your mother-in-law, so you ran away. And the worst part is, these rumors are being spread by your mother-in-law. I squeezed the pen in my hand. Carol. I knew she wouldn't leave me alone, but I didn't think she would stoop to such lows as slander. Aunt Rose continued. I met her at the market today, and she was shouting across the entire fish aisle that you're gallivanting and sending your husband $700 every month to shut him up. She also said Greg is a wimp for letting his wife cheat on him. You better sort this out, or with a reputation like that, how will you ever look people in the eye? I took a deep breath to calm myself. Thank you, Aunt Rose, for informing me. The truth always comes out. Those who sow the wind will reap the whirlwind. Goodbye. Hanging up, I saved the audio recording and immediately sent it to Greg on WhatsApp with a short message. Listen carefully to what your mother is saying about me. I'm giving you 24 hours to resolve this issue. If tomorrow I hear even one more rumor, or if you don't make her publicly apologize, the divorce petition will be on your desk. Greg called me instantly. His voice was panicked. Maria, I just listened. It's terrible. I didn't expect Mom to be capable of such lies. Calm down. I'll sort everything out right away. That evening, through the surveillance camera, I secretly monitored what was happening. I saw an argument unlike any before. Greg returned from work, threw his briefcase on the couch. His face was crimson with rage. Carol, sitting and peeling an apple, immediately pounced on him. "Who are you looking at like that, Greg? Came home from work. Didn't even say hello to your mother." Greg stood in the middle of the room and pointed at the door. "What did you tell the neighbors? That Maria is cheating? That I'm a cuckold? How could you invent such a blatant lie about your daughter-in-law?" Carol's eyes widened, and she screamed, "And I didn't tell the truth?" She disappeared, abandoned the house. If not with a lover, then where is she? Are you a fool, son? You can't let a woman get away from you. She'll run, and you won't catch her. "Shut up, Mom!" Greg roared. His scream was so loud that Carol flinched and dropped her knife. "Maria went to work to pay off the mortgage on this house, to pay for your medication. The $7,000 I gave Sarah was her money too, and now you're slandering her. Do you want me to lose my wife? For our family to fall apart?" Carol was stunned. For the first time in her life, her obedient son dared to yell at her. She clutched her heart, about to stage an attack, but Greg preempted her. "No more theatrics. I spoke with the doctor. Your heart is healthy. Starting tomorrow, I'll go to Aunt Rose's and visit all the neighbors to refute your lies. And if you insult Maria even one more time, I will immediately move out and stop giving you money. Live by your wits." This declaration shocked Carol. She realized that her son was no longer a puppet in her hands. On the other side of the country, in San Diego, I turned off my phone screen. The corners of my lips twitched into a smile. Finally, the cornered animal had learned to bite back. By the third month of our separate lives, everything began to fall into place exactly as I wanted. Greg seemed genuinely afraid of losing me, or perhaps the financial pressure had forced him to grow up. Every Sunday evening, he sent me a detailed report on finances and household matters for the week, attaching photos of receipts. In his last letter, he wrote, "This week, I cut the grocery budget to $100 for 3 people. Mom complained there was no Wagyu beef, but I told her if she didn't want it, she didn't have to eat. In the end, she ate meatloaf and pasta. I also had a serious talk with Sarah. I told her she either gets a job or moves out. She cried, but in the end, she got a job as a cashier at the supermarket near home. Yesterday was her first day. She complained her feet hurt and she broke her nails, but I didn't pay attention. I won't give her another dime." Reading this, I simultaneously laughed and felt a little sorry for them. Sarah, accustomed to luxury, was now standing behind a cash register 8 hours a day. It was, of course, torture for her, but it was a necessary lesson. No one was obligated to support her for life. Greg also started changing his habits. Instead of drinking with friends after work, he went home and cooked dinner himself. He learned to create an economical menu and compare prices at stores. One day, during a video call, I saw him in my old apron, a ladle in his hand, sweating. "Maria, I cooked chicken pot pie today from an internet recipe, but it's not very tasty, not like yours. Now I understand how hard it was for you to come home, tired from work, and still stand over a hot stove." His sincere words softened my heart a little. People only begin to appreciate what they have when they lose it, or when they go through difficulties themselves. "Did you sauté the vegetables? Did you simmer the tomatoes with vinegar?" I instructed him through the screen. "Ah, right, I forgot about that. I'll redo it now. By the way, Maria, Mom has been complaining less lately. She's probably afraid I'll get really angry. And the neighbors stopped gossiping after I caused a scene at Aunt Rose's." I nodded. "Good, keep it up. When Sarah gets her paycheck, tell her to contribute her share for food. Don't give in to pity." "I know. I'm already looking for a rental apartment. I found a few studio options 10 miles from Mom's. The prices are reasonable. This weekend I'll go look at them, take videos, and send them to you for approval." In the evenings, we started having real online dates. Greg would set his laptop on the kitchen table in front of a plate of instant ramen while I sat on the hotel balcony with a glass of wine. We no longer talked about problems or argued about his family. Instead, we reminisced about the past. Greg talked about work. I talked about San Diego. The initial awkwardness gradually disappeared, replaced by a feeling of closeness, like at the beginning of our relationship. I realized that Greg wasn't a bad person. He was simply a product of overly protective upbringing. When he was thrown out of his comfort zone, his survival instinct and male responsibility awakened. Nevertheless, I kept a cool head. 3 months of change still guaranteed nothing. I needed time to be sure of his sincerity, and most importantly, to see his family's reaction when I returned. 6 months of the business trip flew by in an instant. On the day I completed the project and received a promotion, my heart fluttered with mixed emotions. I was returning to New York, but not to the old cage. I asked Alex to secretly find me a luxury apartment for rent in an upscale Manhattan neighborhood, far from where my husband's relatives lived and from where Greg planned to rent. Greg met me at the airport. As soon as he saw me with my luggage cart, he rushed over. Greg had lost weight, gotten a tan, but looked more masculine and mature. He wore a perfectly ironed white shirt and held a bouquet of red roses. No trace of the slovenly man from 6 months ago. "Welcome home, my love," he smiled, handed me the flowers, and tried to hug me. I smiled, accepted the flowers, but gently moved away, allowing him only to take my hand. "Thank you. You look great." Greg enthusiastically wheeled my luggage cart to the car. Along the way, he excitedly told me that he had already moved all our belongings to a rental apartment in a suburban neighborhood like Queens. The apartment, though not as big as the old one, was bright and clean. He had also warned his mother and Sarah that I was returning today and that no one should bother us. That evening, he promised to cook a celebratory dinner himself. I sat in the passenger seat, silent for a moment, then gently said, "Greg, we're not going to Queens. Go to Manhattan." Greg, surprised, slowed down. "Manhattan? Why? We rented an apartment in Queens." "You rented an apartment?" "I rented a separate apartment for myself in Manhattan. I'm not ready to live with you under one roof again yet." Greg slammed on the brakes by the roadside. "Why don't you want to come back to me? Don't you love me anymore?" I looked him in the eyes. My voice was firm. "I appreciate your efforts, but for the last 6 months, we've lived separately. You changed because circumstances forced you to. Now I've returned, and if we move in together immediately, I'm afraid you'll start relying on me again, like before. I need a transitional period. We'll date like lovers. You'll live at your place, I at mine. We'll meet on weekends. If after 3 months, you maintain your independence and strength of character, then I'll move in with you." Greg lowered his head to the steering wheel. His expression was one of extreme disappointment, but he knew my character. If I decided something, I couldn't be swayed. "Okay, I respect your decision, but I will prove to you that I've truly changed, not just pretended." Greg drove me to my new apartment. Luxurious apartments with a view of the Hudson River, with exquisite interior design to my taste. Greg carried my suitcase in, looking around with admiration and some uncertainty. He understood that his wife was now on a different level, and if he didn't try harder, he would forever be left behind. "Rest up. Maybe we can have dinner tonight at that French restaurant you love?" he offered thoughtfully. "Okay, at 7 p.m. Pick me up." I walked him to the door. When the door closed, I sighed with relief. The first step on the road back was successfully taken. I didn't want to become a sacrificial wife again. I wanted Greg to win me over anew, for him to understand the value of the woman he once didn't appreciate. 2 weeks after my return, Greg's family was hosting Carol's 60th birthday celebration. It was an important event she had planned for an entire year, inviting all her relatives from out of state and neighbors to show off. Despite Greg living separately, he had to take on the main organization. And, of course, I received an invitation through him with the words, "Tell your wife to come. Don't embarrass me in front of my relatives." I thought about it for a bit and decided to go, not to serve, but to affirm my new status. I chose a designer navy blue dress that accentuated my figure and wore an expensive pearl set I had bought myself after my promotion. I put on flawless makeup, exuding the aura of a successful executive. Greg picked me up. He was in an elegant suit, looking at me with pride, but also with anxiety. "Maria, there will be a lot of people today. My aunts love to gossip. If anything, just ignore them, okay?" I adjusted his tie and smiled. "Don't worry. I know how to behave. Unless they cross the line. The celebration was held in a mid-range restaurant. When Greg and I entered, the room fell silent for a moment. Carol presided at the head of the table in a loud red velvet dress. Seeing me, she stopped smiling. Sarah, standing next to her mother in a short dress, gave me an envious look. I approached and handed Carol a gift in a red velvet box. Happy birthday, Mom. I wish you health and many years. This is a massage chair. I ordered it from Japan. It will be delivered to you tomorrow. A gift worth several $1,000s made the aunts sitting nearby gasp. Carol, though she didn't like me, wanted to appear dignified in front of her relatives, so she reluctantly accepted the gift, grumbling, "Well, thanks for the thought. Sit down." I sat next to Greg, and immediately, the rapid response team, consisting of his aunts, began their attack. Aunt Brenda, the most sarcastic of all, started first. "Well, look at our daughter-in-law. She's really moved up. They say she abandoned her husband for 6 months, traveling for business. That's not good, dear. When a woman gets too caught up in her career, she neglects her family." I calmly took a sip of tea and replied, "You know, Aunt, in our time, men and women are equal. I work and earn so I can support my family, and so I can give Mom a massage chair. If I just sat at home, what would we live on?" My sharp retort silenced Aunt Brenda. But then Aunt Linda joined the conversation, hitting a nerve. "And you're already 30, right? 3 years married, and no children yet. Maybe there are some problems. Carol is waiting for grandchildren. Career is career, but if you can't bear an heir, then you're worthless." Silence fell over the table. Greg squeezed my hand under the table, about to intervene, but I stopped him. I looked Aunt Linda straight in the eyes and smiled coldly. "Children are a gift from God, Aunt. Besides, my husband and I want to first get on our feet to ensure a decent future for our children. Otherwise, you have them, but you can't raise them properly. They grow up freeloaders, begging everyone for money. I've seen many families where there are many children, but the parents suffer alone in old age. I'm afraid of that." Aunt Linda's face turned crimson, for everyone knew her son was a drug addict and a good-for-nothing. Whispers started again, but this time they praised my wit and condemned the aunt's tactlessness. Carol sat at the head of the table with a stone face, clutching her glass. She felt her power slipping away because of the daughter-in-law she once despised. The celebration had only just begun, but the air already reeked of gunpowder. The atmosphere became increasingly oppressive towards the end of the evening. Alcohol loosened tongues, and the relatives' jabs grew cruder. The culmination came when Carol, egged on by her sister, stood up and approached our table with a glass in her hand. Her face was red, her gaze hateful, fixed on my stomach. "Everyone in our family already has grandchildren. Only our house is unlucky. You say you work, you earn money, that's good, but in 3 years, you haven't given me a grandchild. They say a barren woman won't give a family an heir, and a mean woman won't bear children. What? Do you want our family line to end?" She slurred loudly, her tongue thick from drink, so the entire restaurant could hear. Greg jumped up. "Mom, you're drunk. Go rest. We've talked 100 times that we'll decide when to have children ourselves. Maria has nothing to do with it." "Silence." Carol waved her hand dismissively at her son and poked her finger at me. "It's all her. She's obsessed with money, afraid of ruining her figure. Selfish. We don't need a daughter-in-law like that. If you can't bear children, get out. I'll find Greg another wife." In a fit of rage, she swung her arm and knocked a plate of hot soup off the table. The plate flew directly at me. I managed to dodge, but splashes hit my expensive dress and arm. A searing pain shot through my skin, but the physical pain was nothing compared to this humiliation. The entire room fell silent. Everyone waited for my reaction. But Greg was the first to react. Bang! He hit the table with such force that the dishes jumped. He screamed. His voice shook the entire room. "Mom, this is too much. My wife is not an incubator or a punching bag for you to take out your anger on. This is the woman I love, who supported our entire family all these years. You call her barren. Do you know that this barren woman spent thousands on a massage chair for you, Greg turned to his stunned relatives. And you, aunts, have you ever helped us with a single cent, only to now meddle in our lives and insult my wife? From this day on, if I hear one bad word against her, I will disown all of you. Having said that, Greg took off his jacket and put it over my shoulders, covering the stain. He hugged me and, pushing aside the chairs, led me to the exit. Come on, my love. We have nothing more to do here. Carol froze, her hand still raised, her face turned white as chalk. She hadn't expected her obedient son to cause such a scene at her birthday, embarrassing her in front of all her relatives. I allowed Greg to lead me away. In the parking lot, he immediately began examining my arm. His voice trembled. Do you have a burn? Does it hurt badly? I'm sorry. It's my fault. I couldn't protect you. Looking into his eyes full of concern and his still angry face, for the first time in many years, I felt a strong emotional connection. This man had finally found the backbone to defend his wife from family storms. No, it doesn't sting. It's nothing serious, I said softly, wiping soup splashes from his cheek with a napkin. You were really amazing tonight, Greg. Greg hugged me tightly, burying his face in my shoulder. I'm sick of all this, Maria. I don't want you to endure humiliation anymore. We'll live our own lives and disregard them all. That night, Greg stayed with me. We didn't make love. We just lay in each other's arms. He held my hand all night, as if afraid I would disappear. I looked at his sleeping face and thought that perhaps our marriage contract was indeed working. But I knew that Carol wouldn't give up so easily. Her silence after the party was just the calm before a new, even stronger storm. After the shocking incident at the anniversary, the atmosphere between Greg and me became surprisingly warm. His decisive action in defending me became a powerful catalyst for my fading faith in our marriage. I decided to reduce the distance and allow him to participate more in my life, although we still weren't officially living together. We began to make plans for a more stable future. On weekends, instead of sitting in cafes, we drove around looking at apartments. Our goal was an upscale condominium complex in a desirable neighborhood of Brooklyn, about 10 miles from his parents' house. In accordance with our marital agreement, Greg was full of enthusiasm. He himself contacted realtors, compared prices, calculated mortgage options. Watching him seriously study floor plans and calculate interest rates, I felt an extraordinary sense of calm. Maria, look, this apartment faces southeast, so it'll always be bright. A big balcony. You can plant roses, just like you like, and the price is reasonable. If we invest our savings and take out a mortgage for about 30%, we can totally afford it. Greg pointed at his tablet, his eyes shining. I smiled. I like it too. But did you calculate everything well? With a mortgage, we'll have to pay about $4,000 a month. Your salary plus my share. Won't that be too difficult? Greg took my hand. His voice was confident. I've calculated everything. Soon I'll take on an additional freelance project. My boss promised to increase my salary next quarter for good work. I'll work my tail off, don't worry. I want this home to be built on my sweat and blood, so that you and our future children can live comfortably. The word children, spoken by him so naturally, made my heart skip a beat. The prospect of a cozy home, children's laughter, and a responsible husband began to seem real. Even more surprising was the change in Sarah's behavior. One afternoon, she invited me for coffee. She arrived early, dressed modestly in jeans and a shirt, without her usual flashy outfits. Sarah timidly slid a glass of juice towards me. This is for you, Maria. Drink it. Refresh yourself. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. What's wrong? Is a hurricane brewing? The younger princess is treating her sister-in-law to juice. Did you run out of money again? Sarah blushed and lowered her eyes. No. I got my first cashier's paycheck. All day on my feet. Customers yelling. I just realized how hard it is to earn money. I was wrong before. I thought your and Greg's money was a given. I'm sorry for everything. I looked at her, trying to spot any falsehood, but saw only shame and remorse. It seemed Greg's tough measures and my coldness had had an effect. It's good that you realized it. I'm not angry with you. I just didn't like your freeloading. If you try hard, I'm willing to help you with your career. But when it comes to money, We'll always have a strict accounting. Sarah nodded. Yes, I understand. Mom has also been sad lately. She sits alone, silent. Greg moved out, and she keeps walking around the apartment, talking to herself. If you have time, tell Greg to drop by and see her. I agreed. It seemed everything was falling into place. My husband's relatives started behaving decently. My husband got his act together. In short, the future looked bright. I thought the storm had passed, and we were on the verge of happiness, but I was wrong. The calm was just a prelude to the strongest storm yet. A month later, we put down a deposit on our dream apartment. To celebrate this event, we had a small dinner at my apartment in Manhattan. Candles, red wine, quiet music, everything was perfect. Greg raised his glass, looking at me with adoration. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I promise, you'll never be disappointed in me again. I smiled happily and clinked glasses with him. But as the glass touched my lips, Greg's phone rang. The insistent ring shattered the silence. Greg looked at the screen, and his face instantly changed. It was his father's number. Hello, Dad. I'm listening, Greg answered. His hand trembled. On the other end of the line, his usually quiet father's panicked voice rang out, loud enough for me to hear everything. Greg, come quickly. Your mother grabbed her heart. She's not well, can't breathe. She fainted. I called an ambulance. Come to the local hospital immediately. The glass slipped from Greg's hand and shattered. Red wine spread across the white rug like blood. His face turned white as a sheet. Mom, what's wrong with Mom? Dad, I'm coming, I'll be there soon. Greg grabbed his car keys and ran out the door, leaving me alone in the middle of our ruined celebration. I quickly changed too, grabbed my bag, and ran after him. Whatever disagreements we had, a person's life was paramount. When I arrived at the hospital, Greg was sitting, head bowed, by the doors of the ICU. His father and Sarah stood nearby, all tense. Seeing me, Sarah ran up, in tears. Maria, Mom, her heart hurts. The doctors are examining her. I'm so scared. I patted Sarah's shoulder and walked over to Greg. He looked up at me, his eyes red and full of horror. Maria, if something happens to Mom, I'll never forgive myself. I drove her to this. It's because of me. She got sick, because I moved out. I frowned, feeling something was off, but still said softly, calm down. The doctors haven't said anything yet. Mom had regular checkups. Her heart was fine. Why so suddenly? After a while, a doctor came out. Greg rushed to him. Doctor, what's wrong with my mother? Does she have a heart attack? The elderly doctor adjusted his glasses, looked at Greg, then at the patient's chart with a tired expression. Calm down. We did all the tests. EKG, heart ultrasound. The results show that your mother's heart is in perfect order. No signs of heart attack or blocked arteries. Everyone was taken aback. Greg stammered. But she was screaming in pain, gasping for breath, even fainted. The doctor sighed. These are symptoms of an acute panic attack, combined with gastroesophageal reflux. It's possible that due to severe stress, the patient experienced psychosomatic pain. We gave her a sedative. She's regained consciousness, but she's still complaining of pain and demanding to see her son. Go in and talk to her. I stood leaning against the wall, arms crossed over my chest, watching Greg rush into the room. A bitter smirk appeared on my lips. Panic attack, reflux. In simpler terms, faking it to exert pressure. Carol played her last and most dangerous card, blackmailing with her own life. And judging by Greg's panic, she was winning. I entered the room. The sharp smell of antiseptic hit my nose. Carol lay on the pristine white bed, hooked up to wires, even though the doctor said everything was fine. Seeing Greg, she began to moan so pitifully, as if she were dying. Greggy, it hurts so much. I'm dying, son. I won't survive this night, she whispered, clutching his hand. Greg collapsed to his knees by the bed. Tears streamed down his face. Mom, don't say that. The doctor said you just have indigestion. You'll rest, and everything will pass. Carol's eyes flashed, and she suddenly miraculously regained the strength to yell at her son. What do these quack doctors know? It hurts right here. She poked her chest. My heart hurts because I gave birth to a son, raised him, and now he listens to his wife and abandoned me alone in my old age. I'll die so you'll all be satisfied. Having said that, she turned to the wall and began her hunger strike. I won't eat or drink. No shots. I'll die so I won't be a burden to you all. My father-in-law, standing nearby, sighed and attacked Greg. See, son, it's all because you moved out. She's so worried. Where's your filial conscience? Do you want people to point fingers at us? To say we couldn't raise a son? Greg flinched under the pressure. He turned to me with a plea in his eyes. But I stood motionless, with an icy expression. I understood this was a perfect psychological trap. If I said anything now, I would become guilty of everything. I would become the daughter-in-law who drove her mother-in-law to an early grave. For the next 3 days, Carol refused food, drank only water, and constantly threatened to die. The hospital became a revolving door. Relatives, aunts, uncles, everyone came and looked at Greg and me like public enemies, whispering about the evil daughter-in-law and the spineless son. Greg's phone was constantly ringing and buzzing with reproachful messages. You ungrateful son. Your mother is in the hospital, and you're not repenting. You can replace a wife, but you only have one mother. Greg was completely crushed. He lost weight, looked haggard, and didn't sleep at night. He began to waver. I saw it in his every gesture, in every word. One evening, he led me into an empty hallway. Maria, I can't do this anymore. Mom really will die. Can't you just give in a little? I pulled my hand away. Give in? How? Well, let's postpone buying the apartment. Let's live with my parents for a while until Mom recovers, calms down. It's only temporary. Maria, I beg you, save my mother. Save his mother, or kill my life again. I looked at this man, and disappointment overwhelmed me, drowning all the sprouts of hope. Greg didn't understand, or didn't want to understand, that once he turned from this path, there would be no going back. Today's compromise would become tomorrow's slavery. Greg, have you thought this through carefully? I asked for the last time. My voice was cold as ice. If you return to that house, it will mean you are discarding our agreement. Are you sure? Greg lowered his head, avoiding my gaze. I have no choice, Maria. She is my mother. His answer was a knife, severing the last thread that bound us. The next morning, Greg met me at a cafe. He was late, looked exhausted, and avoided my gaze. I sat with a cup of black coffee. My thoughts were clear. Maria, he began, last night Mom got worse again. The doctors say the arrhythmia isn't dangerous yet, but if she continues to starve herself, anything could happen. She gave an ultimatum. If I don't come back, she'll pull out her IV. I took a sip of bitter coffee. And what's your decision? I'm moving back in with my parents today. His voice trembled, but he tried to speak firmly. I've already moved out of the rental apartment, and the apartment we wanted to buy. I'm sorry. I called the realtor and canceled the deal. I need that money for Mom's medication and care. I laughed softly, but with contempt. He canceled the deal, canceled our future, without even consulting me. He had completely fallen into his mother's trap. You say this is temporary? And do you know how long temporary will last? A year, 5 years, until she dies. And all that time I'll have to be a maid again, enduring insults? No, I promise I'll protect you, he said hastily. You just need to pretend to be obedient to please Mom. We'll still be husband and wife. Protect me. I looked him in the eyes. Greg, wake up. You can't even protect your own opinion from her clumsy performance. How do you plan to protect me? Do you think I don't know she's faking it? You know, the doctors know, everyone knows. But you're a coward. You're afraid of being labeled an ungrateful son, and you're willing to sacrifice your wife's happiness for a false sense of peace. Greg was silent. My words hit their mark. You chose your mother. That's your right. But I have the right to choose my own life. I wasn't born to be a victim for your toxic family. I pulled a white envelope from my bag and placed it on the table. I prepared this 6 months ago, but I hoped I wouldn't have to use it. Today, you showed me I was naive. Inside was a divorce petition, signed by me, and the keys to our shared apartment, which I had kept for sentimental reasons. Maria, are you serious? You're leaving me just because I want to take care of my mother. His voice trembled, tears rolling down his cheeks. Not because you're taking care of your mother, Greg, but because you'll forever remain a big child, hiding behind your mother's apron strings. You never grew up enough to be a husband, a head of a family. I need a partner, not a burden I have to carry my whole life. This is it. Greg stared at the petition, unable to believe his eyes. He always thought that I, a 30-year-old woman who had already been married, would cling to him, but he was wrong. For me, divorce was not a defeat, but liberation. I'll never sign it. He tore the petition to shreds. You're my wife. You're obligated to share all hardships with me. I watched the scraps of paper flutter to the floor. You tore this one. I'll print a new one. The law allows for unilateral divorce. I have all the evidence of psychological abuse from your family, financial opacity, and your own messages where you admit your weakness. Do you want to part peacefully, or do you want me to make your entire cultured family a laughingstock? Greg froze. He knew I didn't make idle threats. Maria, give me one more chance. I gave you too many chances, Greg. The last 6 months were the biggest chance, and you drowned it the moment you canceled the deal and decided to return to your swamp. You chose the past, and I choose the future. Goodbye. I turned and walked away. The click of my heels sounded resolute. Greg wanted to rush after me, but the waiter stopped him, demanding he pay the bill. While he fumbled with his wallet, I was already in a taxi. In the car, I didn't cry. I called Alex. Alex, it's over. The party for my freedom is on tonight. Always ready. Congratulations, my friend. You removed the malignant tumor. Tonight we party till dawn. I looked out the window. New York City gleamed under the bright sun. I felt an incredible lightness, as if I had shed the heavy armor I had worn for 3 years. I was free. I would live for myself, for my career, and for the joys I had denied myself. The divorce went faster than I thought. Greg, under pressure from his mother, signed the documents. I walked away with nothing from our shared property, but I took my savings with me and, most importantly, my dignity. Stepping out of the courthouse, I took a deep breath of freedom. Greg stood aside, looking at me with regret, but I didn't look back. A new, happy life awaited me. 1 year later, New York City, pre-Christmas days. I parked my new Mercedes at Saks Fifth Avenue. I had a meeting scheduled with Alex and some international partners. I got out of the car, adjusting my stylish coat. At 31, I felt more beautiful than ever. My career was soaring. I had become a regional director. My income had doubled, and my peace of mind made me feel younger. Alex and I were at the beginning of a light, respectful relationship, full of laughter, nothing like my past suffocating marriage. Entering the lobby, I heard familiar shouts. "Why are you so slow, Greg? I asked for tea with less sugar, and you brought this sickeningly sweet stuff. Do you want my sugar to spike?" I stopped and turned. Carol sat on a bench, even fuller and rosier than before, scolding the man standing next to her. That man was Greg. I barely recognized him. In a year, he had aged, his hair touched with gray, his back stooped. He stood, head bowed, in a worn shirt and wrinkled pants, mumbling something in his defense. Beside him, Sarah was taking selfies in front of a Christmas tree. Ignoring her brother, she was still fashionably dressed. It seemed that after I left, all the financial burden had once again fallen on Greg's shoulders. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'll buy another one," Greg said warily. Turning, he met my gaze. He froze. He looked at me, elegant, radiant, confident. Then he looked at himself, pitiful, worn out, resembling an old man. Shame and regret flooded his eyes. He wanted to say something, but couldn't. I looked at him without hatred and without pity, simply as a stranger. I nodded politely and walked on into a world of bright lights, where my friends awaited me. Behind me, I heard Carol's voice. "Where are you staring, Greg? Move it, my throat is dry." "Coming, Mom, coming." His weak reply was drowned out by the cheerful Christmas music. The automatic doors closed, separating two worlds. The world of freedom and happiness that I had reclaimed for myself, and the world of servitude and submission that Greg had chosen for himself. Life is fair. Only by letting go of a rotten past can one find a beautiful future? I smiled and walked toward Alex, who was waving to me, silently thanking myself for that decisive goodbye.